Scanning the restaurant for the client I was scheduled to encounter, I caught sight of my former spouse, Susan, seated beside a moderately overweight, middle-aged man who had previously been fit but had been altered by lavish meals over time. Susan appeared dazzling while her associate bragged about his riches. As I watched, memories overwhelmed me like a tidal wave. 3 years post-divorce, feelings re-emerged as though it were just yesterday. Finding myself outside the eatery, I realized she was in the location of my intended meeting today, not I. However, as you will observe, her desire had been fulfilled. My difficulties started when I had to journey to Albany for a business meeting, opting to stay the night to avoid a lengthy drive back. I received a call from the client an hour into the voyage, informing me he had sustained a minor injury but was fine. We postponed the appointment. Reluctant to undertake an additional 2 hours of driving, I chose to head back home to prepare a surprise romantic meal for my dear wife. As I neared our residence, 3 strange vehicles caught my attention entering the home. Hopeful for the best, my spirit plunged at the sight of 4 disarrayed sets of garments in the living area. My heart dropped upon hearing my wife shout. It was not a plea for assistance, but something different. My soul crumbled, realizing my wife was unfaithful. I knew I had to discover what was occurring. Ascending the stairs, I heard a raw noise. Peering carefully into the bedroom, I saw 3 unknown men, one being her employer, Jeff Davis. They regarded my wife merely as an object for their amusement. On the scene, I chose to record their activities for legal purposes. I captured 5 to 10 minutes of footage as that was all I could endure. Whereas some might find this scenario appealing and stimulating, I found it deeply distressing. Feeling betrayed, witnessing my wife treated as an amusement by others was intolerable. I descended to collect my thoughts and regain composure in my office. I retrieved my firearm from the safe, deactivating its safety. I am not inclined towards violence, but I felt compelled to discharge a few rounds should their behavior escalate. Foolishly, I then collected all the car keys and wallets from the trousers left in my living area. Outside, I deflated the tires of all their vehicles, including Susan's. Upon returning inside, a smirk of satisfaction crossed my face, one that would rival the Grinch's. I began devising an excellent strategy, confident in its success. Provided Sue checked her mobile, which I had seen on the nightstand while recording, I prepared my camera, concealed myself behind the stairs, and promptly dialed Sue's number. It rang multiple times, leading to her voicemail. Knowing she anticipated my call at this hour, I redialed every 2 minutes until she eventually picked up. They must have silenced themselves, for the quietness was such that one could hear a pin fall. "Hey Bobby, how's Alan?" Sue inquired, panting. The men's suppressed laughter was audible. "Seems you're panting. Are you okay?" I queried, feigning concern in my tone. "Oh, I just rushed upstairs to grab the call on my phone," she hastily justified. "My meeting was canceled, and I'll be home in a few minutes. Would you like to dine out tonight?" I proposed, maintaining a calm demeanor. Internally, I was more agitated than ever before. "You're coming back now?" she asked, voice laden with anxiety. "Sounds wonderful. I'll just get ready, darling. See you soon," she replied hurriedly and disconnected before I could respond. I chuckled privately, anticipating the imminent scenario. Indeed, shortly thereafter, 4 completely unclothed individuals made their way down my stairs into the living room. Every man dressed quickly, and Sue also got ready and straightened her attire. All the men left together, and Sue put on some shoes and a coat. She went to the door and peered outside, hoping they would depart before she stepped out. Had she not been so thrilled, she might have noticed my car parked on the street outside our home. All the men started calling out to her simultaneously, and she stepped onto the porch to hear what they were saying. Just then, I shut the front door and locked it, leaving her outside. My wife caught a glimpse of me as I was shutting the door and attempted to look through the side window and talk to me, her voice full of desperation. "The time for conversation has ended," I declared. The other men came back to my porch and started pounding on my front door. Within moments, I realized they wanted their wallets and keys. I phoned 911 and reported an attempted break-in at my home. The dispatcher mentioned that a neighbor had already called. I provided my name and address. Shortly, a police officer arrived. After the police questioned my wife, I stepped out to meet the two officers present. "Officers, these men assaulted my wife, and I demand their arrest," I informed them. This sparked immediate protest from the men, claiming consent. Everyone, including me, turned to Sue for a response. She avoided eye contact and, in a low, ashamed voice, admitted to inviting the men over and consenting to the acts, denying any assault. The men were visibly relieved to avoid assault charges. Soon after, 2 more police cars showed up. At my request, they recorded everyone's details for their report. The lead officer told me that since my wife had invited the men over, and they were adults, there wasn't much they could do, suggesting we seek counseling. I asked the police to order a taxi, stating that Mrs. Thomas wouldn't be allowed back in our home that night. One of the men arranged the taxi. After finding their tires slashed, they tried to blame me for their missing wallets and keys, but I denied any knowledge of it. I then returned to the porch, glaring at Sue. She tried to approach me on the porch, a daring act considering my fury and the fact that I was armed. "Body, I'm truly sorry," she began, but I interrupted her, heartbroken, refusing to forgive. I told her that from then on, I would only refer to her derogatorily and that any future communication should go through Ted. With that, I entered my house and locked the door, leaving her outside. She returned to the group in tears. Jeff's attempt to comfort her was rejected, which oddly pleased me, though my satisfaction was short-lived. Upon returning to my bedroom, the scent of their activities overwhelmed me, driving me into a rage. I began to destroy the room, throwing the mattress outside. I grabbed my toolbox from the garage and dismantled the bed, scattering its pieces on the lawn along with the mattress. I went back to the bedroom and picked up Sue's mobile phone from the ground. I looked through her contacts and texts, and of course, she had offensive emails, pictures, and even a few clips of some men I never recognized. Yet from the photos, it seemed she was quite familiar with them. I began searching for trash bags to pack all her garments in, and I found myself chuckling. I was once devoted to her, but those days have ended. I moved all the cartons from our bedroom to the ground floor and sorted the contents of each into distinct heaps on the front yard. Next, I handled all her additional belongings in the guest room. Here, I encountered another shock. I took all the drawers from the guest room dresser to the yard, just as I did with Sue's bedroom things. The very last drawer was jammed and wouldn't open fully. Not in the best of moods, I vented my frustration on the drawer. I yanked hard and heard the plastic snap. I pulled out the drawer and attempted to open it gently. It opened right away, and I saw what was causing the issue. Beneath the drawer were 7 or 8 DVDs. I damaged one of the DVD cases, but the disc was still okay. My heart dropped once more as I looked at the discs. I didn't think I could feel any worse, but I did. As I walked downstairs, my eyes caught the titles on the discs, and I felt even more upset. Upon reaching the living room, I carefully arranged the items on shelves for later examination. The first was a video of Sue with her good friend Sarah at Sarah's house. I had thought Sue was helping with events in Avon on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but instead they were having personal moments with men for extended periods. Sue and Sarah were experimenting with various kinds of closeness with multiple partners, which brought tears to my eyes. Until the last 2 discs grabbed my focus. The first showed Sue involved with her tennis coach during sessions I had paid for. She attended these every Saturday, coming back too tired for any closeness that night. The second disc showed Sue in an affair at her job, right on the conference room table, with Jeff, her manager, and Jeff's boss, Bill Evans, a well-known figure in our community, often seen in the news at different events. Seeing him take advantage of my wife made me feel completely hopeless. I grabbed a large envelope, put in a CD or OM, and a tape with footage I had recorded. Before, my plan was to send the whole envelope to my attorney and trusted friend, Tedworth, a lifelong buddy I completely trusted. Nothing else seemed important at that moment. My attention turned to Sue's computer on the desk, and with the press of the spacebar, it turned on. I carefully copied every document, email, photo, and video onto an external hard drive, a task that took almost an hour. Once done, I started going through my wife's computer content, videos of her impersonal acts like those on the CD, along with pictures meant for mature websites. Looking through her emails from the past 6 months, I found messages cleverly hidden under harmless file names, including exchanges with Jeff and various men, as well as conversations between Sue and Sarah. The most recent just a week ago. Reading a particular email sent chills down my spine, making me think about reaching for my gun. Yet I decided she wasn't worth such extreme actions. I had to stay determined. Only one email from Sue to Sarah had stirred deep feelings in me. Sarah wondered why Sue stayed with me instead of choosing to be single and new, and urged Sue to describe her perfect qualities in a future partner. This is what she admitted to Sarah. "I don't want anything to do with him now. Bobby is as faithful as he is naive. I really think it's just a matter of time until he discovers my secret way of living. He's not totally naive. It's just that love makes you blind. He's been looking a bit healthier lately, and his waist has been expanding day by day. At times, it's challenging to feel attracted to him when I contrast him with the men we know. Additionally, I'm not fond of beards and mustaches. They make him appear somewhat unappealing to me. There was a period when I deeply cherished him, yet the thrill of recent years is hard to forsake. His close friend who practices law might complicate things further if he gets involved, potentially leading to troubles. Jeff and Bill from our workplace hint at possible job advancements and salary increases, alongside some playful banter. It makes me laugh. I also hope to acquire a house and a vehicle if things go according to plan, possibly even securing a modest amount of support payments monthly. I eagerly anticipate our gathering on Tuesday. I plan to attend if my recent sports injury allows. Tony's energy amazes me. I must remind myself to obtain the video from last Thursday's group workout session. My ideal partner would be affluent, faithful, easy to guide, and not too sharp. He should be exceedingly attentive to my wishes while still inquiring about my preferences. The aspects of intimate relations are less important to me provided financial stability is assured. I often find it surprisingly straightforward to achieve my goals. Alas, Bobby's return means I have to cut this short. Looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Do call. Rereading this letter, the terms unappealing in the reference to the past few years deeply wounded me more than I can articulate. Did she truly feel this way about me? Was my affection so blinding that I overlooked her infidelity for over 2 years? Following these revelations, I retreated to the couch, drifting into a restless sleep. Awaking early, I informed my workplace of my illness, as I had spent the night restlessly. I then reached out to Tedworth, a trusted friend and my legal advisor on many matters. Mary, Ted's assistant, whom I've known nearly as long as Ted, answered. I urgently requested to see him, instructing Mary to use the name Tammy Brown to ensure Ted's prompt attention. I hastily prepared to leave, only to be interrupted by a call from an unknown number, which I answered, hoping it was Ted. Bill Evans, calling from Susan's office, sought a meeting to discuss the previous night's events. Although uncertain if he was aware of his recorded indiscretion with my wife, I recognized his concern over potential losses, including important clients and the risk of negative publicity. I agreed to call back with a plan to meet later that day. Exiting my home, I noticed the aftermath of what seemed like a chaotic clearance sale, including a damaged bed and scattered clothing. A neighbor's puzzled look hinted at the gossip that awaited. Despite the suburban drama, I proceeded downtown for a meal before heading to Ted's office. Mary made me a cup of coffee with a lot of cream and no sugar. We've known each other for a long time. Holy Bobby. I don't know what your issue with Tad is, but when I mentioned his name, he asked me to clear his schedule for today. I could use a month off, she said in a lighthearted manner. If you're curious about who Tammy Brown is, you'll have to ask Ted. By the way, where is he? I inquired. He mentioned he'd be here soon. He had to rearrange his meeting with the judge for today's court session, she informed me. Just then, he walked through the door. Holy Bobby, mentioning Tammy Brown's name means you're in deep trouble. Let's head to the office and discuss, Mary said. Don't forward me any calls at the moment. Ted spoke up hastily. I grabbed my coffee, and he shut the door so we could have a conversation. I briefed him on the events from last night and what I discovered about Sue's new lifestyle. Then I handed him an envelope filled with items I had gathered. He listened attentively to my account without interruption, pondering the legal aspects as he pieced together last night's events. I also mentioned Bill Evans' request for a meeting today. Well, Bobby, as the saying goes, priorities first. We've been friends for a long time, and I can see you're hurt. Do you think there's a chance for reconciliation with Sue? He queried. Ted, if it were Katie, your wife, and you saw those videos and read the emails, you'd leave her immediately. I want a divorce, but I'm also looking to take some serious action. I won't just fade away, I confessed. Okay, but first, we'll sue Tony at the Ace Tennis Club. We can't target Sarah, since she's merely a close friend of Sue. However, Sue's business is a whole other story. Additionally, I intend to sue the 2 clients who visited your house along with their firms. We're also targeting Jeff Davis, Bill Evans, and their company, he outlined. Things might worsen before they improve, Bobby, he warned. I don't mind, even if it means fighting on the streets. I'm determined to hold them accountable for betraying me through Sue, I responded firmly. Okay, Bobby, repeat what Bill Evans wants, and we'll proceed from there, Ted suggested. We reviewed various strategies, and I found the last one most appealing. An aggressive move against Sue's company seemed best. I had crucial video evidence involving Davis, Evans, and Sue in their conference room. Ted mentioned that as Sue's superiors, they influenced her role, which could also lead to significant legal consequences. I like the sound of that, Ted hinted. Once Bill Evans learns what we have against him, his stance would shift, potentially leading to a financial settlement. If it's less than $2 million, he can forget it, I declared. Let's aim for $2.5 million. I'm familiar with your legal charges, I added, laughing. Come over tonight at 7 p.m. Katie's preparing a delicious dinner for us. It might be a nice change of scenery for you, he proposed. I immediately called Bill to schedule a meeting for 2 p.m. Shortly after, Mary peeped into the office. Ted, you have a call, she announced. Mary, I said no calls, he replied, visibly annoyed. I'm sorry, Ted, but it's Susan on the line. I thought you might want to take it, Mary explained. Apologies, Mary, but it looks like today will be a lengthy one. And it's only beginning, he responded. Does she know Bobby is here? He inquired of her. Not that I'm aware, Ted, she replied. Inform her I'll have a word with her shortly, he stated more gently as Mary hastened into the reception area. I reckon she's already found her mobile phone, computer, and all her DVDs missing. I assumed she was furious when I scattered all her belongings across the front yard, along with our bed, he mentioned. Wow, you definitely had an eventful night. Let me speak, and don't interrupt me, he said during the conversation. As your attorney, I should clarify a few points at this point, he offered me, emphasizing the importance, as I began to eavesdrop on a unilateral conversation. Though I couldn't hear her words, I could nearly grasp what she was conveying to Ted. Hello, Susan, this is Ted. I've already spoken to him. Bobby is a wonderful person and a friend. I believe you, of all individuals, would protect him instead of betraying him. No excuses, Sue. I'm not interested. Yes, I will represent him. He presents compelling reasons. Be prepared, it won't be easy. I'll have a word with him, but you've devastated a man who was utterly loyal and adored you. I doubt he values your opinion. My top advice is to find yourself an excellent attorney. You're going to need one. Yes, Bill Evans is scheduled for 1:40, though I believe you shouldn't attend. Hear me out, Sue. If you even think of appearing at the office door and eavesdropping, I'll advise Bob to depart, and chaos will ensue. It's best you remain patient and keep your composure today. I'm aware he placed your items on the lawn, but just as you could allow strangers into your sleeping quarters, he can dispose of your belongings. To be honest, I'm astonished he didn't harm anyone last night. Indeed, he was with him, but it was for self-defense. He suspected you were assaulted, as mentioned in the police report. If it were my Katie, I'd be incarcerated at this moment. Given the situation, I believe his reaction was heated. Regarding your laptop, mobile phone, and any other possessions not found inside, today you should consult the house's co-owner. Maybe he left everything outside with your apparel, and perhaps someone else took them. I'm unable to confirm. I finalized all the escrow documents for the house, and both of you possess equal rights to it. How you decide to utilize these rights is a personal choice. Okay, I'll inform him immediately. I advise you to remain elsewhere and allow Bobby to stay in the home until things are resolved. Currently, it's not safe for you to share the same space with him. Listen, Sue, even now, the thought of confronting you makes me angry, so don't push it. Stay with Sarah, and we'll communicate. Have your attorney contact me once you've appointed one. Your crying won't sway me now, Sue. Besides being his legal advisor, I'm also his ally. Your tears are ineffective with me. I can become stern if necessary, and this scenario seems fitting. I've always had respect and affection for you until today. It's regrettable you'll witness a side of me usually reserved for foes and naysayers. You won't appreciate it. All right, but keep your distance from him and don't leave your office. Currently, he wants no association with you. Goodbye, Tad concluded and glanced at me. I believe you caught most of the dialogue. He questioned me sorrowfully. Indeed, I just wish for another chance to confront her personally and express my true feelings, though the thought of encountering her once more is too painful at the moment. I confessed to my companion. Here's what you should do, Bobby, he suggested, instantly shifting his demeanor to one of optimism and hope. Fetch these recordings for me, Tad requested as I withdrew from the envelope the videotape from the previous night, the footage of Tony at the tennis club, and the tape of Sue with Mr. Davis and Mr. Evans at her office. I handed over the videos to him, and he suggested inviting Mary to join me for lunch. I gave him a puzzled look, and he quickly explained, I think it would be best if I review these myself to avoid causing any distress before our meeting at 2 p.m. I believe watching these videos won't be beneficial for you at the moment, and I'd like to prevent any frustration before our encounter. Acknowledging his point, I expressed my gratitude and shared the positive update with Mary. She humorously insisted on dining at a costly place, assuming Ted would cover the bill. Our laughter filled the air as we exited the building. Dining with Mary proved to be a delightful experience. She effortlessly diverted my attention from any concerns for the time being. Upon our return, we were greeted by Tad's loud cheerfulness, finding him celebrating at his desk. This footage is incredible, Bobby. It's unbelievable, he exclaimed. My reaction was a mix of amusement and sorrow, which didn't go unnoticed by him. Oh, Bobby, I apologize. My celebration wasn't about the tapes. I understand Sue's actions have hurt you. My excitement stemmed from a different discovery, he confessed. Bobby, come over here. There's something you need to see, he beckoned, guiding me to stand behind him for a clearer view of his computer screen. Did you see the whole video that Tony recorded at the tennis club with Sue? He inquired. No, I only managed to watch parts of it last night. It was tough to sit through without feeling sick or enraged, I responded truthfully. Well, I've got something surprising for you. Just as Tony and Sue were finishing up, they attracted a small audience in the men's locker room, Tad shared, pointing out. I'm not sharing this to upset you, but look at this man, indicating a figure on the screen. The man in question was elderly, clad in a towel with long gray hair and a thick mustache. Ted, I don't recognize him, but it seems you do, I remarked. Bobby, he's related to our meeting today at the tennis club at 4 p.m., Tad revealed, sharing his enthusiasm and the reasons behind it. His strategy made me smile. Besides being a friend, Tad was an excellent attorney, and I was thankful for his support. We then prepared to leave for our 2 p.m. appointment with Bill Evans, taking a portable DVD player, several printed photos, and legal documents with us. As we arrived at Sue's building and made our way to Bill's office on the top floor, I sensed someone's gaze just before entering. Glancing down the corridor, I noticed a woman hastily retreating around a corner upon being seen. Guess who that was? I mused to myself, relieved that I wouldn't have to confront her today. Entering Bill's office, we were met with its lavish decor. In every spot on the wall, there was a marker, trophy, or photo of a celebrated individual alongside Bill Evans. He possessed a pleasant office, and my initial impression was to wonder if Sue had been in that space. At this notion, my dislike for Mr. Evans intensified. I introduced Tad and began the conversation. Hello, Mr. Evans. This is my buddy Tedworth, and he will join today's meeting you mentioned. I informed Bill as we all exchanged greetings. Bob, I was under the impression this would be a small private meeting just between the two of us, Mr. Evans queried. I thought bringing Tad along would be fine. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of him, I replied, making it clear I wasn't open to discussion. Consequently, he acknowledged Tad's presence and commenced speaking directly to me, disregarding Tad, which amused Tad. Anticipating what was to come, I allowed Mr. Evans to speak first before we burst his bubble. Bob, may I address you as Bob? Bill inquired. No issue whatsoever. In fact, I thought it'd be beneficial to include Jeff Davis in this meeting as well. It's relevant to him too, I shared with Mr. Evans. After contemplating briefly, he pressed the intercom and instructed, July, inform Jeff I need him in my office immediately. Tell him to halt whatever he's doing and come here at once, he commanded. Jeff will join us shortly. Meanwhile, I want to express my regret for the inconvenience Jeff and Sue have caused you. I understand last night was difficult, but together we can possibly assist everyone involved. Bill expressed optimistically. What exactly do you mean, Mr. Evans? I inquired, awaiting Jeff's arrival. I hold your wife, Sue, in high regard, Bill stated, but was interrupted as Jeff entered abruptly, appearing ready to exit immediately. However, Bill insisted he stay. He sat reluctantly, avoiding eye contact with me. Bob, I just want to convey my fondness for Sue, almost as if she were my own daughter, he started, but Tad interjected. Are you implying you condone incest, Mr. Evans? Catching him off guard, I chuckled quietly, understanding the implication of Tad's remark. What incest? What are you talking about? He questioned Tad, visibly offended. Allow me to demonstrate. As they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words, Ted remarked, placing a DVD player on Bill's desk and handing the stills from the video to Jeff. Not Bill. Jeff's eyes widened in shock, and he handed them to Bill. The images depicted Bill and Jeff with my wife, clearly indicating their actions. Bill seemed to recognize his boardroom table, previously used for encounters with Sue. Jeff, did you seriously record this and distribute copies? Bill inquired, bewildered. Jeff was speechless, utterly taken aback. Well, Mr. Evans, here's the plan. By the way, I'm Bobby's lawyer and friend. Let's discuss our demands and how you'll address them, Tad announced to the astonished audience, enjoying the moment. Firstly, Sue retained her job, no questions asked. Bobby feels she'll need employment, and she's well liked here, he mentioned to Bill with a subtle nod. Second, Mr. Davis is no longer welcome. Sue remains. This man departs, Tad stated, pointing at the shocked Jeff. Lastly, we expect a financial proposition that respects our intellect. We will solely review your initial proposal and provide an affirmative or negative response within 5 working days. Our intention is to initiate legal proceedings before 2 months elapse, potentially sooner if required, Tad declared. Before anyone could interject, Tad activated the playback function and rotated the monitor for Bill to observe. It depicted the 2 individuals repeatedly compromising my spouse in their boardroom. Jeff had no necessity to observe since he orchestrated the video capture. Bill gazed at the display, dumbfounded. I noticed the wheels turning in his mind as he pondered ways to safeguard his enterprise, his reputation, his familial relations, and above all, his finances. I was aware an event was imminent, Jeff, upon the departure of these men today. A grave dialogue regarding your ongoing employment will ensue. I shall consult my attorney to ascertain if an agreement that slightly pleases you is feasible. You both grasp the severe detriment to our business should this incident become public prior to my proposal's appraisal, Bill articulated, pondering aloud. Rest assured, Mr. Evans, your secret remains safe with us until we witness your earnest proposal. Nonetheless, I advise against hastily dismissing Mr. Davis presently. He might possess additional copies of the tape, which could serve as bargaining chips if we proceed unwisely. You and Mr. Davis should deliberate this matter personally. Furthermore, engaging in amorous activities with a subordinate may result in legal repercussions, including incarceration, and negatively affect your professional trajectory and prospects for advancement, Tad warned, as we prepared to leave. Tad collected the DVD player and photos we had displayed, exiting the premise and leaving Bill and Jeff on the brink of a frank exchange. Approaching Tad to inquire about something, he signaled for silence until we were outdoors. Unbeknownst to me, my spouse was nearby, surreptitiously listening in, but Tad noticed. The last sound I heard was Mr. Evans summoning Julie through the intercom. Bring Sue Thomas here at once. A grin formed on my face, anticipating an entertaining meeting. Bill was about to learn of the DVD's discovery in our residence. Once outside, I questioned why Tad provided Jeff an escape route by suggesting he use his own recording against Bill. Divide and conquer, Ted explained. It's preferable they don't collaborate. If Bill presents a jesting offer, it encourages them to turn against one another. Ted also mentioned their familial ties in church attendance, which seemed ironic given the content they produced. These revelations made them hesitant to disturb their domestic harmony. As we departed, I was struck by the realization that this place would now be associated with my spouse's infidelity rather than her workplace, evoking a sense of melancholy. Among my many thoughts, Ted brought me back to the present. Let's grab a beer before our next appointment at the tennis club. We could both benefit from a drink, and there's something I need to discuss, but I'm unsure how to broach it. During our drive to the tennis club, we stopped at a charming bar adjacent to it. Tad ordered beers and began, "Body, I believe Bill Evans might extend an offer, albeit slightly less than $1 million. I'm familiar with his legal representation from another case, and they're highly competent. The lead figure is also pragmatic. I'll contact him tomorrow to convey that an insubstantial offer could detrimentally impact his client's business and familial life. I'll propose to them to handle it for around $3 million, or just abandon the idea here entirely," he mentioned to me. I must find out if the proposal is declined, which might mean whether I have the ability to pull Susan through the dirt. I won't be nice to her for anything in the world. I can't perform anything apart from what I believe will secure the win in the case. It will be my disagreeable task as your attorney if it comes down to that. This can turn unsightly and highly public. I will utilize every resource at my command to triumph in our situation. You might not appreciate all the particulars that could be disclosed about Sue, your relationship, and possibly your intimate life. I will portray her as the degraded woman she has turned into. I'm not sure if you've pondered this entirely," Ted appended at the end. "Indeed, I have genuinely thought about it. I'm a greater individual than any of these people assume I am. If this has to be done, you have my approval. But I'd prefer to attempt the monetary proposal first before we escalate, I insinuated slightly. All right, first we'll assess what Bill proposes to you. Nevertheless, if it's unacceptable, I will finalize all the required documents on the same day. I will also reach out to my contacts in the newspaper and my acquaintances at 3 local news stations. They'd be thrilled to receive a few clips of videotape or photographs, even if they must add blue blocks over the explicit segments, as they phrase it in sitcoms. Ted, you've always been supportive of me, and I trust your judgment. I merely wish this entire ordeal had never occurred. It was more enjoyable being an oblivious husband than to be publicly humiliated by an unfaithful wife. You still have my permission to do whatever is necessary. After all, I didn't initiate this, but I'm determined to conclude it soon. I expressed to him with frustration in my tone. Okay, Bobby, no issue. Now let's go over the content for our upcoming meeting. This individual, Mr. Harry Real, is the proprietor of the Ace Tennis Club. This is the person I identified in the footage in my office. He informed me you will claim that adults will be adults, and you will be powerless to assist us. Even Tony's tennis coach could be dismissed merely as a facade. Then he might rehire him the following week. I verified, and Tony is highly favored there, especially among the women, if you catch my drift. He could re-employ him to maintain appearances with the club members. But recall, Bobby, it's mainly men who contribute to the club fees, and women attend as well. Don't overlook this fact, because it will be crucial for your dealings with Mr. Real, he explained to me. We arrived just in time, and it was apparent Mr. Real and Tad didn't get along from the moment Real spoke. All right, you initiated the meeting, so let's conclude it. I wish to finalize this as swiftly as possible, Mr. Real declared without any warmth. Mr. Real, this is Bob Thomas, he said, nodding towards me. And his spouse is a member of your club. It has come to our knowledge that Tony Simba, your tennis coach, was involved with Mr. Thomas' wife. We wish to know your plans regarding this, Tad concluded. He awaited Real's response, but even I was aware that he would assume full responsibility and succinctly dismiss Tad. What 2 adults choose to do in the privacy of their homes and on their own time is their business. I'm not their guardian, so cease squandering my time, Harry Real responded. As for you, Mr. Thomas, if you fail to satisfy your wife in the bedroom, don't approach me weeping. Don't hold me responsible if she betrays you. There are numerous dissatisfied wives who visit the Ace Tennis Club. Some of them return because of the personal attention my staff offers them, Harry mentioned, winking at me. I was tempted to confront him, but Ted caught my wrist and quietly urged me to remain composed and follow his lead. You see, Harry, you presume this occurred outside the club, and without the complete awareness and consent of the owners. It would be incorrect for you to assume so, Harry, Tad stated, pulling out a DVD player and placing it on his desk. Ted pressed play and angled the screen towards Harry, indicating that Harry was about to concede and beginning to acknowledge the situation with my wife. It was obvious that he had an aversion to the appearance of the video as Tad started speaking before Harry could even process his thoughts. Harry, you, being fully aware and with the involvement of your coworker, exploited the membership services of a subscribed member of your club, Mrs. Susan Thomas, a woman who is married, even received her membership fees from Mr. Thomas. Now he is an unhappy customer, Tad disclosed to the very silent Mr. Real. When this information becomes public, every member, specifically the male members who contribute financially, will demand to know if their wives are engaging in inappropriate activities here, while they are the ones covering the expenses. I'll need to summon every individual who was present in the locker room on that particular day. I'm uncertain if they, specifically the married ones, will appreciate your actions, Tad relayed in a tone that was nearly whimsical. I nearly forgot to mention the rightful expectation of privacy, especially when recording in the locker room. Initially, Harry, by the time I'm finished with you, your club will cease to be the symbol of unity it once represented, and I believe your financial reserves will diminish, Ted added for emphasis. Therefore, we expect you to present a significant proposal and contact me promptly. Acting swiftly could spare you a considerable amount of trouble and financial loss, Ted concluded. We observed Harry pondering his next steps. Ted, you are indeed astute, but I can't dispute your reasoning. I'll reach out tomorrow with my proposition. If I comply, all recordings will be returned to me never to be disclosed. I will voluntarily dismiss Tony now if that's everything you've come to extort. Harry Real addressed us as Ted grinned, switched off the DVD player, and departed. Oh, and extend my greetings to Tito Martinez, Ted mentioned to Harry on his way out. Go to hell, was all Harry managed to reply. Tad chuckled throughout his return to the parking area, finding the entire situation amusing. So, we're now awaiting proposals, Tad said to me as we headed to his place for a home-cooked meal. By the week's end, Bill Evans had proposed just below $2.7 million to retain Sue as his staff. Jeff Davis was terminated after he naively handed over all his video recordings to Bill Evans, leaving Bill with no choice but to let him go, and Jeff was left powerless. I pursued the two fools who accompanied my wife on the evening I discovered her with Jeff. They were two of Jeff's significant clients, both eager to avoid any public scrutiny either for their businesses or personally, so they each offered me $1 million to back off. Harry Real chose not to propose anything and urged us to proceed with legal action against him. We did, and he ended up losing $3 million following the lawsuit. He faced so many inquiries from club members that he lost half of them and was compelled to abandon the rest. He probably believed he could evade the situation, but the judge disapproved of the footage from the private locker areas and the involvement with others' wives. I recounted. I provided Sue with a house and a car as she desired, yet I wasn't required to pay her any child support. I encountered her only twice during court sessions, and I insulted her each time, which brought her to tears. I often ponder why she wept then, and not when she was causing turmoil in my life, marking the most challenging period I've ever faced. Despite the hardships, I ended up wealthier than before, all thanks to heeding Ted's counsel. The pain lingers, and the memories of that dreadful year still accompany me. These reflections rushed back in an instant, and I barely noticed anyone speaking to me until I snapped out of my reverie, startled by the restaurant manager's inquiry if he could assist me. Unsure of how long I had been standing there lost in the past, I shook my head to clear my thoughts and re-entered the restaurant. Sorry, I was just lost in thought about a past issue. I found the group I was looking for, so thank you once more, I expressed to the manager, who gave me that peculiar look often directed at an elder seemingly out of place. With determination, I approached my ex-wife's table. The shock was evident on her face upon seeing me. Back when we were last together, I was heavier with long hair and a beard. I permitted myself to relax due to my injured knee, a relic from an ancient baseball mishap. That's the justification I used back then, but truthfully, I had grown accustomed to my life with my spouse. Now, with my hair cropped and lean from regular exercise, and my knee mended thanks to financial help from Jeff and Bill's venture, my attire was preferable, and I constantly strove to present well publicly. Opting to initiate conversation, I complimented, "You look fantastic today. I nearly forgot how stunning you are," aiming to provoke a dialogue. I was adept at pressing her buttons, and did so deliberately. "My name is Susan, Bobby. Why not address me by my name?" She retorted, equally vexed. "Hey, I never disclose your name. You know who did. I merely think it's fitting," I replied. "You declared 3 years ago how you shattered my heart, and I've chosen to refer to you by that title since," she explained, just as the individual beside her started to voice his objection. Rising from his seat, Sue urged him to remain seated, cautioning against causing a commotion. She shed tears, her cosmetics smudging. Her partner suggested, "Go freshen up, Sue. Fix your lovely face," intending to handle the situation. As she stood, our eyes met, and a single look likely conveyed the torment I'd harbored for the past 3 years. Her tears flowed anew, more intensely. I was taken aback by her evident emotional turmoil, possibly a blend of residual affection and guilt. "I hope you won't be here when I get back," she said through tear-drenched cheeks. Only then did I notice the large wedding ring as she headed for the ladies' room, wiping her eyes. "So, you're Bob Thomas, Sue's former husband?" he inquired, disdain evident. "Indeed, and you must be the new dream come true," I retorted, noting his anger. "I'm Sue's CFO. Frankly, I'd advise against calling her that," he stated, though his reluctance to escalate the situation was apparent. "I sought this private discussion. I have 3 inquiries, then I'll exit your lives forever," I clarified, piquing his curiosity. "Ever considered I was just like you, wishing to spare another the agony I endured? Presumably, she painted me as a dreadful spouse, abusive, neglectful, or unfaithful," I prodded, confirming his informed perception. "My aim isn't to salvage my image, rather I'm curious. Does Sarah still host her sale events at her residence on Tuesdays and Thursdays?" I inquired. "Sue supports Sarah with sales on Monday and Wednesdays," he replied. "Your recollection seems faulty," he retorted. "Then does she still pursue tennis on Saturdays?" I pressed. "Sue plays on Sundays." "Clearly, you've forgotten much," he replied smugly. "Lastly, have you inspected beneath the bottom drawer in your living room's dresser?" I queried abruptly. "Why would I?" he protested. "The answers you've given reveal why we parted ways," I concluded, revealing I still possessed all divorce-related documents, legal correspondence, and extensive recordings. "Consider this document I'm offering you. It's a letter Sue penned about disposing of me before uncovering her infidelity. It changed everything, yet it's now your concern," I stated, presenting the aged, creased letter. However, I was quite familiar with Sue and understood that she was a creature of habit. She always performed the same actions in the same manner every single time. Occasionally, this behavior irritated me. I also sensed that even though she had a new partner, she would continue her usual routines. He seemed reluctant to accept the piece of paper, but I believe his curiosity prevailed. He reached out and accessed the letter. I've had it with me for the past 3 years, periodically rereading it and attempting to enhance my life, so that no woman would ever pen something like that about me again. Among all the videos and other materials, I learned from this letter resonated the most with me. I think that's the reason I've kept it close. This is the same letter I mentioned earlier in my tale. Peter perused the letter slowly and set it down on the table. He quickly took out a pen, jotted down a note on it, and to my astonishment, departed the diner without looking back, without offering thanks, showing a completely impassive demeanor. I leaned in to see what he had inscribed on her old letter. "I'll return to the residence shortly. Please remain here, and I'll contact you in 15 minutes. I'll await my call. For some peculiar reason, I must inspect the area beneath the bottom drawer of my living room dresser. Be back soon, Peter." I felt he had experienced an epiphany, even if he wasn't fond of it. Something indicated that my assumptions were too accurate on all counts. The letter was the final push, and I believe he needed to verify for himself. I left the message before vacating Sue's table and exited. There was no chance I would stay in that eerie atmosphere with anyone that evening. I proceeded to the entrance hall and phoned my client. They mentioned they were delayed and wouldn't mind postponing our appointment. Just before departing, I glanced one more time at the table. Sue came back to the table and scanned the area for Peter. She sat down, saw her old letter and Peter's note beneath it. Her complexion turned ghostly pale as she recognized her old letter and Peter's message to her. The last time I saw my spouse, she was weeping so intensely that the whole diner turned their attention towards her. I genuinely felt pity for her, but at the same moment, I was indifferent. That was the final occasion I saw her. I still ponder whether Peter discovered anything beneath the drawer. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.